Okay, it's time to check out Time to Move. Time to check out Time to Move. Sorry, bad pun. That was unintentional. Um, Time to Move is a really cool, pretty new tool that just came out. It allows you to basically do a really rough animation and then use Wan2.2 to kind of fill in the details and make it look more realistic. Um, so we're going to look at that tool, but first we actually need to set up our files. Probably the biggest challenge with this is actually building your sort of stop motion animation that you want to use to generate the high res, sort of higher quality video from. The Time to Move library does come with its own GUI that allows you to do that. For a bunch of reasons, I didn't decide to show that here. In part because you need to set up your own environment and then run it locally. It's like kind of a mess, and you can't run and run comfy. You could still build this in Photoshop, Premiere, After Effects, any number of other video tools. I am here in After Effects, and I'm just going to show you what I did and how I built what I'm going to show you. There's probably other ways to approach this, but I think it's a pretty fast way. This took me about 15, 20 minutes to make this. So you need an image, first of all. So for example, for this, what I end up doing is I end up using this animation, which is kind of our classic from this class so far. It's a ballet dancer in a ballet studio. Um, the second thing you need to do is you need to crop out the actual shape of the character you want to move around. So for that, I just made a mask. It's this mask. You'll see it kind of moves around. I did a very rough job. If you zoom in very closely, you'll see there's not really that much. It's not high quality, and it doesn't need to be. So you can just kind of roughly sketch in the shape, and you'll be good enough with that. Now, the other thing that needs to happen here, right, is because I need to animate this character, I also need a version of this image without this character in it. And it turns out it's very easy to do that in Nano Banana. So Nano Banana, you can probably Google it. It is in Google's AI Studio. I'm pretty sure there's like free versions available that people can try out for like one or two images. I've used the version that is on Fall. They all work. What you do is you give it this image, and you basically say remove the dancer. And what you'll get back is an image that looks like this. Now you might notice there's a little bit of scaling difference. It doesn't really matter. For this animation, it doesn't matter too much. I could probably dial in the scaling a little bit better if I wanted to, but I don't care. This is just a demo. So you'll see there's slight differences, but it gives you a pretty realistic image of what happens when the character is gone. So now because of that, because I have an image without the character, and I have this matted version, I just quickly went in and added some keyframes. So what kind of happens is the character kind of jumps up a little bit, then lands, then kind of jumps in the middle, like a little bit slower, then lands again, and then exits the scene. I'm sure I could do something more interesting here. You could even maybe ask Nano Banana for like an image of like the backside of this woman. Like what does she look like from a reverse view? Matte that out, and then you could even like kind of drop that in. I don't know how necessary that really is. Like we can kind of play in Time to Move to see if we can say like she does a spin. Will it accurately like redraw her spin? I'm not entirely sure. We'll play with that. So this was really roughly keyframed in. The other thing I should mention is your video should be about 5 seconds. Again, we're using Wan2.2, so a 5-second animation is going to be plenty here. Wan2.2, I believe we're going to use 14B, so it could probably be 16 frames a second. What I have this set to. So I have my mind set to 24. I could probably drop that to 16. The other thing is you could do that in the VHS uploader as well. So either of these works. I have a decent size. It's not super high res, but that's fine. This will be plenty for what I want to do for inside of Wan2.2, right? Because Wan is really probably best at 720 pixels high. So I think this will work fine. The last thing you need to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to render this video out. The other thing we need to do is we need to render what's called a masked version of this. And that is basically just masking where the character is. Now, this isn't the easiest thing to do, but it's really easy to do in After Effects, or like it's fairly easy to do in After Effects. What you do is you copy this character, and then you can do what's called pre-composing, so you can dump it into a new composition. So that's what I've done here, and this is the composition. It's just called matte. Matte's the same as masks. And if you double click into it, what you'll see is you have a solid background, and then you have a white mask of the character doing the same animation. So all I did was copy that character in, and then what I do is I add an effect layer of levels. And all you do for the levels effect is you just crank up this, you crank the black to white. And all that does is make the entire image inside of that mask white, and then you have a perfectly executed sort of matte. So what we're going to do is we're going to render out this video and this video, and we're going to bring those both into After Effects, or sorry, both into Run Comfy. I believe we also want to keep this image. This is the original image. So I think we're going to do all three of those. So you need a static image of your sort of original image so it can figure out what the character needs to look like. You need your matted version, which is just a white and black, and you need your animation, which is, again, very, very rough. You'll want to render it without that character, so it just needs to be pretty rough. Cool, so this is all we're going to need. If people are interested in this, I'll share this After Effects file with people. I will also, for demo purposes, give you both these videos and the original image, so you can follow along if you want to, but it's probably more fun to make your own. I'm sure everyone has better ideas than what I just did here, but try your own. Again, if you kind of roughly figure this out, it doesn't take more than 20 minutes to probably generate this. If you are unfamiliar with After Effects, I'm happy to walk you through it, but this is an After Effects tutorial, so I just kept this as light as possible. Okay, so now let's move over to Run Comfy, and we'll look at how to actually generate this in Wan2.2. So Time to Move is not yet on Run Comfy as its own workflow, so I imported a custom workflow from Kajai. And for anyone interested in the process of doing that, or this exact process for this workflow, I did record a bonus video for that as well. Basically, you bring in the workflow, you have to check your models. Most of the models you need for this are already on Run Comfy, so you don't need to worry about that too much. So what we'll do is I will share this link with everyone so you can use my workflow. But for this, we're just going to hit Run Workflow. I'm going to choose an extra large. That might be overkill, but it's Wan2.2, so it needs a fair amount of VRAM. You could potentially use the 2XL Plus, which is quite expensive, but would probably be faster. Any H series is going to be about twice as fast as an A series. It's not. It's like triple the price, so it might not make sense. So we'll just use an extra large, and it might take us a bit longer to generate these videos, but I'm only doing one or two of them for this purpose. So we'll go ahead and hit launch. I have enough money here, so I'll go ahead and hit launch now. And I'll let this run for a couple minutes, and I'll be back when this is up and running. Okay, I'm up and running, but it seems like I didn't save my workflow, which is annoying but fixable. So what we're going to do instead here is we're going to, I've already shared the link to this JSON file. Anyone that wants it, I will share it again. But we're just going to drag this in here. No errors, so that's really great. So what we'll probably need to do is connect some links here, and then I'll resave this workflow for everyone. So the next time you open this, you shouldn't see this. But let's start with just adding the video files we need. So we'll need to provide the image, right? So we'll start with the image asset. So what we'll do is we'll choose the file to upload, and I happen to know it's this one. So again, this is the image you want to use with the person in it. So it's kind of the original image. So we'll upload this. And then we want to come down here and we want to upload the motion video. So this is the one that's sort of roughly cropped in. So we'll go ahead. Cool, there you go. And you'll see here that this was already set to 16. So we want to force the rate to 16, and that will give us 80. We might need to set this to 17, and then we'll crop this to 81. That's a note for next time is you actually want to make it 5 seconds and 1 frame. So that then when you set it to 16, it's able to do that. Instead, what I'm going to do is set a 17, cut down 1 frame, and then this will be a little weird, but it'll work still. And then the other thing we want to do is upload our mask files. We'll again choose this. We've got our matte. And we'll set these values to the same. So we'll say 17 here, and we'll say 81 here. It doesn't really matter the speed at which you do this, because when it runs through Wan2.2, it's going to then get sort of cleaned up to the closest value. So the other thing we want to do here is we want to look at resizing. So we've got the resizing set up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this to 720. These need to be values of 32. So let's say 720 divided by 32. Oh, that shouldn't actually work. Interesting. is by 16. Yeah, okay, let's start at 16. And then this one is, the video file, I believe, is like 1386. Let's try that, 1386. What is 1386 divided by 16? We'll see if this works. Well, actually, let's just do this. Let's do 16 by 86. 1376. Okay. So this will crop the video into the scale we want it to be at. It'll do a resize and then crop. So it'll keep the proportions. Yeah, we'll do crop. And this will also, the image and width here will get passed down to these other resize tools. So all of these will resize. Interesting. Why is that a stretch? So I want to crop too. So all these will crop to the same dimensions. If you have different dimensions, it'll likely throw an error, but otherwise it'll just make some weird stuff. So that's all we need to worry about there. So what this is going to do is this is going to generate a starting frame of our video. Interesting. I wonder if that's going to mess this up. I might actually need to generate the very first frame. Well, let's see. I'm kind of learning as we go through this. I feel like I did this once with the demo video, and it was already set up the way I want it to be, so I should double check that. So we might need to actually re-render just that first frame since it's being passed in as a starting image, but we'll see. Let's see, what else do we want to do here? So we've got the videos being encoded. We're adding the time to move latents. That's being passed to an image embed, so all this is being passed over here. We'll keep all of these values as is. So you'll see it's doing a full denoise strength, and this is kind of interesting. You can read the paper on this. It does like multiple denoising paths, some without the masked image and some with, and then it kind of like figures out how to fill it all in. It's pretty interesting, but we won't really go into that. If you want to read the paper or like look at the pages, what the website for this tool, it's up on GitHub pages. It's pretty helpful to watch or to look at. We will need a input prompt. So what I can do for that is I can go to ChatGPT. I already have a prompt for this. If you watch maybe like week 1 or week 2 of the videos here, you should see that there is already a, let's see, dynamic video description. Okay, I found it. I have too many ChatGPT sessions and they're all named the exact same thing. We've gone through this one on how to generate this, but I'm just going to grab the exact same path that or the description I got for this image out of ChatGPT. It's not perfect, but I don't think it needs to be. Cool. Okay. So the answer moves across the screen, rising and falling gracefully. And a slow controlled spin. Okay, so this is, yep, okay, this works. I might want to modify this once I see the first generation, but I think for now it's good enough to start with this. The next thing we want to do is we want to make sure all of our paths are correct here. Unfortunately, with the way that workflows work is when you upload the workflow, it kind of provides the default path. The problem is the models here might not be correct, or like the model name is correct, but the path to it is incorrect. So what we want to do is we're going to click on this. We'll do light X. It's this one. It's Wan2.2 14B. We'll do the same for this one. So we're going to do light X2V. We also then need the 14B high and low models. So for this, we're just going to type HIGH, and we'll see we get it here. And if I recall, this might be the wrong model file. We'll see. I seem to recall from the installation video that these were the wrong ones, but let's see what we get here. So we'll use this. We need to update the VAE as well. So we'll do let's use the Wan2.1. So we'll use this one. Okay, I think that's everything we need here. So what we can do now is we can go ahead and hit run, and it'll give me an error message when somebody screws up, because I think inevitably it will. In fact, let me review what's over here. I want to say Sage Attention might not work here. Also interesting that they cranked the loris on this, the low or the high noise. Well, we'll see what happens. There's a chance that I think what I ran into before was that these E4 M3FN quantized scaled models didn't work. And I think what we had to do instead was just set the default high and low, which are these. There's like a... We could use the FP8 or the FP16. Let's just see if we get an error before I make that change. So see, we're encoding these videos. We're then passing that to the Wan image to video encoder. And again, all of this is using the Wan video wrapper, which is Kajai's nodes. There might be a way to do time to video. Actually, let's look this up while we're waiting. Comfy UI, time to move, official. Actually, I do not see an official version. It might only be available through the Wan video wrapper, which is cool. Yeah, so we're using the Wan video wrapper nodes instead of the official Wan nodes that come with Comfy UI. And here we go. I did get my error message. As I recall, I googled this. It has something to do with the fact of like whatever card we're running on can't support these sort of quantized models. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to click on this high one here, and we're going to type in high. And we just want, let's use the FP8 scaled. So we'll use high here, and we'll use low. And I think we're going to turn off quantization. So we're going to disable quantization here and here. It'll mean our model is going to take a little bit faster or a little bit slower to run. I think we can leave the rest of this as is. So we'll hit run again. And again, I'll do a cloud save of this, so hopefully whatever you open on your end, you don't see all the issues that I just saw. Hopefully this will be updated to just be the latest nodes and the correct settings for all of these model files. Still takes forever to load these new files. What's going on here while I'm looking around? Okay, let me, instead of using the FP8 models, just use the FP16 models. Okay, sorry, this is annoying and making the video longer than I want it to be. FP16 for high noise and low noise. We'll use FP16 as well. Disabled, load device. I think we can load this on the main device. Let's just see. What load device does, I should mention this, for people who have lower VRAM usage, if you set this to offload device, it will offload the models like once they're loaded and it'll basically pass things back and forth as needed. It slows down the actual image generation because it's like passing the files or the weights of the model between the GPU and the CPU. If you have a lot of VRAM, in this case, I've got 48 gigabytes of VRAM, so it should be okay. Using the main device means you don't ever have to do that passing back and forth. So again, it's for larger models and for higher VRAM. This might throw an error, in which case I'll have to put it back to offload, because 48 gigabytes is probably around the right range, or like where I hit my limit for things like Wan2.2. But let's see what we get. I think that passed. That passed? Yeah, cool. We're into the sampler. I haven't got an error message yet. We'll see if we get our first step. Once we get our first step, I'll pause the video because it probably is going to take like 20 minutes to generate this first video. Come on, let's see that first step. Okay, you know what? I'm going to pause the video here because I think this is running. I haven't gotten an error message yet, so I think we're good. So I'll come back once I have my first video sample generated. Okay, so we have a finished video now. It took about 11 minutes to generate. I will mention that I flew too close to the sun and did have to set my load device to offload device. I was able to get the low noise, or sorry, the high noise version to work, and then it crashed out of memory on the high noise, or the low noise. Man, I always screw this up. The low noise. So what is kind of nice about this particular workflow is that you can see what the high noise steps generated. So high noise steps generated this thing. You'll see if you zoom in, the person's still pretty blurry, still pretty noisy. So that's the high noise, up to the high noise steps. When you get to the final output, you get something that looks like this. Now, I will say her shirt is still a little, it's a little noisy, but that might actually be, that's pretty accurate for the original as well. Now, is this person dancing well? I don't really think so. I mean, I also don't know ballet dancing that well, so maybe these are accurate physically, but it looks a little basic. There's no spin in the middle. There's nothing like that. Now, that may be because it's actually hard to generate spins in this particular tool. Maybe you need to generate like some additional stop motion frames that kind of show front to back. But what is kind of interesting here is like you'll see, you can see what the input was. It was pretty basic, but you'll see that there's even like some nice reflections on the ground. And this is kind of the beauty of Wan2.2, which is that you get these really nice reflections because of the Wan2.2 model that you wouldn't get with like 2.1. And this is the thing, is like a lot of these control tools, like even the ATI trajectory one that we'll look at later in this class, is based on Wan2.1. And you won't get as nice of effects with this. So it's a pretty nice modern tool, and it was pretty easy to set up. Now, if I were to do this again, maybe I would change my seeds out to see if I got a different version. Maybe I would also tweak my prompt a little bit. Maybe I do want some more spinning in the middle of the video, like that sort of thing. But in general, pretty good. Just trying to see if there's a weird glitch there. I don't think there was. So overall, this works pretty well. I am going to resave this out as a cloud save, so hopefully when you open this again, you won't have to go through all the weird smudgy stuff that I had to reset parameters and things. I will also provide the input videos as well as the workflow itself in case something does go wrong. But yeah, I would love to see what you make with this. I think this is a really cool tool and really points toward a really strong future where you have more control over the exact direction, motion of individual characters in these scenes. And that's just really cool to see. Like, it's so hard to get something like this with a prompting system, even with just like first frame, last frame. This gives you a lot more control over like where the jumps are, where the pauses are in the motion. It's just really nice to see, and I think it adds a lot of potential. Actually, there is a glitch here. It's because this is what we need to fix. So it's because this is fed in as the first frame. So if I were to do this again, I would go back to my video in After Effects, and I would render out just the first frame, and I would feed that in here instead of this entire video. Now, the challenge with that is that person's off camera, so I'm not sure if it's going to render everything correctly. So this is kind of one of those things where like we're going to figure out how this tool works a little bit better, and maybe I would start motion kind of maybe right about here so the full body is in the scene, and then we can move from there. But overall, I'm really happy with this. And this is so much easier to do than trying to prompt my way through first frame, last frame. Okay, that wraps up this tutorial. The last tutorial for this week we're going to look at is ATI, which is an image tool where you kind of create some motion paths in it. So we'll look at that next.